Hello EFD squad and welcome back to Transfer Review, where we analyse the latest and greatest paper talk. As you may have noticed, I'm not joined by Pato this week. It's Ginger Josephine. How are you, mate?
Yeah, not too bad. Excited to be here over Pato.
Ecstatic. Pato is actually out talking to Danny Mills. True story. Let's dive in with our first bit of business. And on today's agenda is Serge Aurier to Manchester United. Surely you're very excited as a Red Devils fan, and this comes from Paris United and L'Equipe.
Yeah, I am actually quite excited. This could be a really, really important move for Manchester United. Jose Mourinho obviously completing the deal for Nemanja Matic during the week and still chasing a winger. He hasn't talked about a right back being needed, but it does seem likely that we are going to end up getting one. And if we do, it's probably going to be Serge Aurier. Obviously, the biggest problem with this move is the fact that he wasn't allowed in the country with PSG to play against Arsenal all the way back in August because he assaulted a police officer. Naughty, naughty boy. However, he does have a court hearing for that on August the 7th, and if it goes through, then he is allowed to come into England in the future. So that could mean the move would happen for around 30 million euros as well, which in my book is a bit of a bargain in the current market for a player of his quality. Obviously, though, we do have Antonio Valencia in that spot. Picked up our player of the season last year, was fantastic in every game, one of our most vital players, a real leader in that team. But you'd have to say, he's getting no younger, is he, hamster?
Oh, none of us are, Joseph. Father time gets us all. Look what it's done to Van Straat. Anyway, yes, Valencia turns 32 in August. Serge Aurier is just 24. Still, very similar players at the moment. Yeah. Defensively, making very similar tackle and interception numbers, although Aurier smashes him in terms of aerial duels. Not sure why that is. Maybe Valencia doesn't need to get involved because he's got Eric Bailly next to him. Perhaps. Though that's just speculation. It's pretty close on the ball too. Both create 1.1 chances per 90, and Aurier has a slightly better pass completion percentage, although I assume that's because he plays in a PSG side which dominates possession in Ligue 1 compared to Manchester United, who are quite happy to hit teams on the break. In many ways, I think he's probably the perfect replacement for Antonio Valencia. I think it'd be a hell of a purchase. Guys, what do you think? If he can curb his ways, if he can behave himself, would he be a great signing for Manchester United? Let us know in the comments below.
Our next move involves a much talked about, braided, dreadlocked, haired Portuguese midfielder. If you haven't guessed it, it is Renato Sanches, but not to Milan. This time to Chelsea. That's according to Ebola in Portugal and The Mirror in England. Hamster, what are we saying on this one?
Yes, poor old Renato Sanches has been played like a fiddle at Bayern Munich. He only got 800 minutes in all competitions last season and is now seemingly out of favour, even more so with the Barbarians after they signed Tolisso and Sebastian Rudy. Now, according to Ebola, Chelsea are willing to give him an out from his German hell with a loan move with an option to buy at the end of said season. However, we understand that's why his move to AC Milan didn't happen.
Yes.
Basically, Bayern want a 10 million fee for a year loan move, already a pretty tall order, and they don't want to include an option to buy at the end of it in case he turns out to be the worldly player he threatened to be 18 months ago. Now, Chelsea actually need a midfielder. Bakayoko's just had surgery on his knee. He might be out until October. They've just sold Matic to Manchester United.
100%.
Fabregas can come in, but he's a little bit lightweight, isn't he? They've still got Kante to do that defensive work, but we saw how useful he was playing a little bit further up the field when it came to their transition game. I mean, unfortunately, I'd like to see him in the Premier League. I'm intrigued by Renato Sanches and his potential, but unfortunately this comes from Ebola, who aren't the most reliable source, to say the least. George has actually put down here it might as well be called Ebola.
That's harsh.
So what is your take on it?
Well, I'm not too sure where he's going to end up, but I'd be surprised if it is Chelsea. Obviously, the Blues being to Danny Drinkwater yesterday by Sky Sports because they need to get that English quota up, and Renato Sanches does not fit that mould. Also, Carlo Ancelotti came out yesterday and said they want to keep Renato Sanches to the very end of the window. So if this is happening, it could well be like a deadline day move, which wouldn't suit the Blues either. However, you look at him going to Milan as well, they've already got a really stocked midfield. You've got the likes of Kessié, Biglia, a new signing as well, very creative players. You've got Calhanoglu in front of him. Does he start in that midfield too over either Biglia or Kessié? I'm not too sure. However, you would have to say box-to-box, driving the team forward is Sanchez's speciality, and maybe that is something Milan are missing. You put together Kessié, Biglia and Locatelli's numbers in midfield, they're averaging just 3.2 take-ons combined per 90. Sanchez by himself is averaging 2.6.
Okay.
So box-to-box wise, he would be a real threat, but where would he play for AC Milan? Would he even get in the team? And should he go there? Let us know what you think in the comments down below.
Next up, we have the reverse transfer of Santiago Munez. Almost. It's Lucas Vazquez from Real Madrid to Newcastle. This comes from AS Joseph. What do you make of it?
Well, on paper, it doesn't look like a goer, but Rafa Benitez has been poaching players from some of the biggest sides in Europe so far this transfer window. You look at the likes of Manquillo, comes from Atletico Madrid. Atsu comes from Chelsea. Mikel Merino comes from Borussia Dortmund. And the big one, Murphy, comes from Norwich. But is it actually going to happen? 26 years old now, Lucas Vazquez, obviously a benchman in Real Madrid's system. And if you brought Mbappe in as well, there's even less chance of a start. He only got 16 of them in all competitions last season, but he did get 4 goals and 8 assists in those limited minutes, which is quite impressive.
More than I expected.
But then Newcastle as well on paper, just like Real Madrid, also stocked with wide men. Perez, Atsu, Matt Ritchie, Murphy could all play in that wide berth. But if you bring a player from Real Madrid to Newcastle, surely he doesn't sit on your bench. He would be a starter for Newcastle. But would Zidane want to sell another squad player? That's the question that needs to be answered, Hamill.
Well, at current, they only have a squad of 23.
Yeah,
and you'd imagine not. And as you just intimated, when he's used in that Real Madrid B team system, he's actually very effective, putting up very good numbers for a player on the periphery. I can see why Newcastle would want him.
Yeah.
He's a big upgrade on all those players that you just mentioned. He's getting 0.4 assists per 90. He's creating 2.6 chances per game, which is very, very healthy. And all of this, I mean, we're comparing him to the likes of Perez and Matt Ritchie or whatever, but they were playing Championship football last season. This is a guy playing La Liga football and he's creating 2.6 chances. That is not to be scoffed at. As we said, better numbers than all the Newcastle players last season. And he's also pretty industrious. This is a player who works hard. He's winning 2.5 tackles and interceptions per game from out wide.
Impressive for Madrid as well.
If he had to play a slightly withdrawn role, you know he's still going to work his socks off. As we said, this may not happen because Zidane has such a small squad at the moment, and they are letting players go left, right and centre, and they're bringing in the likes of Ceballos and the likes of Theo Hernandez, and who's to say they're going to make more of an impression than the likes of Lucas Vazquez. Exactly. He's got much more experience than them. I'm not sure if this is a mover and shaker. Guys, what do you think? Let us know in the comments below. Toonami, we don't hear from you very often, so...
Our final story involves Barcelona. I know we're thin this week, but there weren't many stories out there, so suck it up. It's our transfer shocker. It's Paulo Dybala to Barcelona, according to Radio Marca Catalunya. What are we saying, Christopher?
Well, our transfer shocker definitely would have been Neymar to PSG had we not talked it to death. That looks like it's happening as early as tomorrow, Joseph. It's been confirmed by the ever-reliable Mohamed Bafassi on Twitter. I am in an absolute state of shock. He is going to score 100 goals for PSG and still not win the Ballon d'Or.
Incredible.
What is going on,
Nobody knows. Nobody knows.
They need a worthy replacement for him now, don't they? They need to appease the fans. They need to replicate Neymar's output. And they've gone for a star-studded signing, apparently, in the form of Paulo Dybala for 110 million euros. So reinvesting 50% of that Neymar bucks straight away. Although Juve's director, Morata, is having none of it. He said this kid is not going anywhere, despite Dybala saying, if I was given the opportunity to play for the Blaugrana, I would swim there. A long way from Turin, wouldn't recommend it, my friend.
Yeah.
Now, Catalan radio stations, various Catalan radio stations, have said that they think he's already met up with Barcelona's directors to discuss personal terms, and it's just a matter of a fee. That sounds like paper fodder, Joseph.
Yes.
But forget all that. I mean, it's irrelevant. They'll end up with Paulinho and Iago Aspas. However, would Dybala fill that hole left by the magical, superlative Neymar?
Well, the obvious answer is yes, but they are very different types of players. Make that very, very clear. You'd have to say on paper, the output is quite similar. Yes. 0.75 goals per 90 from Dybala, 0.78 from Neymar. But position-wise, Two totally different footballers. Neymar, very clearly a winger last season. 5.61 successful take-ons per 90. Outrageous, out of this world. Paulo Dybala operated as a defensive forward. He operated as a false 9 at times. He was averaging 85% pass accuracy last season. You look at Neymar, just the 76%. Nevertheless, what a player Paulo Dybala is. And if Barcelona don't get him, someone else is going to. You'd have to say though, is it a good move for Dybala? He will be in Messi's shadow if you operate on the same logic that Neymar's operating on. But for me, it doesn't matter. The chance to play in that Barcelona team will be too much for Dybala to turn down. Whether or not Barcelona can afford him remains to be seen, because Juve know full and well that Barcelona have 220 million euros in their kitty. They will drive that price through the roof. They'll just keep asking for more money until Barcelona eventually play it. But it's probably isn't it? He's not going to end up there. They're going to end up with Paulinho and Iago Aspas. That's what's going to happen. It's shot to bits at Barcelona right now. Who do you think is going to sign for the club? Because if it's not Dybala, is it going to be Coutinho? Is it going to be Mbappe? Who is it going to be? Please vote in the poll up here. We finally got this section out of the way. Transfer shocker, done and dusted.
So guys, that was transfer review this week. Have we missed anything out? Let us know as always in the comments below. And if you're sick of transfers, much in the same way we are, why don't you check out Stat Wars, the champions? It was Pat on Saturday. It's George tomorrow. Can Team FD continue their great run of form? Only one way to find out.
Yes, fingers crossed. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the like button and the subscribe button below. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll catch you next time.
Peace.